is the Thermco Mini Brute 71. This is actually two units stacked on top of each other. The top unit here, they're both MB-71s. The top unit has a range of 200 to 1200 degrees centigrade, and the bottom one is 400 to 1400. When you set these controls up, you have your different zones. You have your rear zone, your center zone, and your front zone. The two side zones, the rear and the front, are dependent upon the setting for the center zone. So the center zone, since this is the 200 to 1200, you have to add 200 to this number here. So I have this set for 100, and if you look at your excess temperature gauge here, it gives you an approximate reading of your actual temperature, and you can see that that's at 300. So 100 and 200 is 300. At the same token, for the bottom one, since this is the 400 to 1400, the exact same condition exists, but here we have 100 degrees. We got to add 400 to that, and so as you can see on our excess temperature gauge here, we've got 500 degrees. So they match depending on which unit you're addressing. The side zones, you'll see they're set for 500. And that is not a temperature, exact temperature range. That is how they are tracking the center temperature. So the center temperature is at 100. When these are set to 500, that means they're tracking the center one exactly. This means that these each have a fluctuation of plus or minus 50 degrees. So if this was set to 400 instead of 500, it would be 10 degrees less, or 100 degrees less rather. No, I'm sorry, 10 degrees less than the center zone. So you have your minus 50 or plus 50, depending upon what you set this to, and every 100 is a 10 degree offset. So that's your ranges here. These track this. Just so you can see how these work. Now I've got this set, as you saw, to these lower temperatures. I'm going to show you later at a higher temperature, but I'm going to show you how these respond. So I'm going to increase this temperature here, and you can see the output here has risen, and it's very precise. So I'm going to go up to, it almost doesn't matter at this point. I'm going to say I'm going to go up to 200. Okay. And at this point, you'll see the output for the center has gone up. These will also increase accordingly because they're trying to track this center temperature. Once the center temperature comes in range, starts to come down, these, once they reach that center temperature, they will also come down. So that being said, I'm going to let this one sit. I'm going to increase both these units so you can see them at a higher temperature. And you can see that the tubes are glowing. The only other thing, I'm going to go through the controls over here. There is a circuit breaker in the rear. This unit operates on 208 volts single phase. When you initially turn that on, it turns the fans on to the inside and allows current to the rest of the instrument for the controls. This you would turn on first, and this turns on your controller, which is here. Once the controller takes about 2 minutes or so to come into its own and be ready to control, then this applies power to the heaters themselves. So you want to turn the back on, then turn this on. Give it a good 2 minutes. It does take a while for these to settle down. And then you turn on your power, and you can adjust your settings to wherever you want them to be. Your over temperature is set here, and as you can see, we have this knob, and you can set it to whatever temperature, slightly higher than what you're going to be running at. Okay, so I've increased the temperature on both of these units, and as you can see, I've got this one at 500, which with a 200 plus difference is giving us about 700, as you can see on the excess temperature gauge. And the bottom one here, I've also put at 300, which will give you about a 700 degree difference too, since you have to add 400 to this one. that being said, they're about equal. I wanted to show it hot enough that you can see that all three zones in here are glowing and controlling. And each one of those tubes has 3 zones in it, the front, the rear, and the center. If you look at the gauges, and this corresponds to either one of these since they're completely separate units, again, I can control the temperature here for the center, which the other 2 will follow. They won't follow immediately because it's tracking the center. So it would take as the center increases. So if I increase the temperature in the center, you can see the output will increase here, and these will slowly. Here the instrument, on each one you have 2 inputs, two tubes. These are your water for cooling. This instrument is capable of running all the way up full range without having water going through it for cooling, but cooling will help cool it down and will help keep it stable also. And the book does have the instructions for doing all of that. This has been pressure tested and is leak free, so both of them are fine and ready to use water at your desire.